But tonight we are here to talk about obviously the Idaho 4 case, because I think for a long period of time, if not from the beginning, I think that myself and yourself have long been, and I could be wrong, but I think we're definitely up there as two of the creators who have been in the Bryan Kohberger is more than likely not guilty than guilty since for a long time. And what's ultimately brought us together is that I think that we've got to a position now where the circumstantial evidence for you has come to a tipping point, and you, in your gut, are the mindset that I think he's done it.
I think that's safe to say. I do want to say before we get dig into this, I think we still have the same position: innocent until proven guilty. Whereas you lean, I think, in a direction that someone else probably did it, or at least it seems that way. I have now come to the conclusion that Occam's razor in my gut is telling me that he's the only one it could be. Don't get me wrong, I've heard all the theories, and I'm sure we're going to go over some of these things today. But just my gut is saying that the pointing at him is correct. I still, if I was on the jury, would not send him to the death penalty. I still do not believe they have that go-to evidence. But all the circumstantial evidence is starting to stack up, and it's just getting to the point where I'm leaning towards I think he did it.
Yeah. And we spoke briefly before we come live, and what my position is with respect of this case is this: like we've spoken about with respect of your positioning has been primarily about the build up and the stacking of circumstantial evidence. And I said, look, the thing is, for me, I can look at circumstantial evidence and appreciate that it gets to a tipping point. But my mentality is still to not allow them to stack up, but to still take them on their own merit. So I'll look at each individual piece of circumstantial evidence and think, okay, in the grander scheme of things, what is the circumstantial evidence doing? Is it circumstantial evidence that ties him to a crime? Or is it circumstantial evidence that is the leveraging of opinion by the prosecution to make you feel a certain way about him? So it's more about circumstantial evidence of character assassination to make you believe that he's the sort of person who's capable of doing it, rather than circumstantial evidence that is connecting him directly to the crime itself. And I think what we saw in Dateline was a very, very cleverly crafted piece of work, if you like, that did its job, and it was to make you look at Bryan Kohberger and feel a certain way about him. Like, case in point being the black hoodie selfie. Like, me and you spoke and you said, look, that was the first time that you had seen Bryan Kohberger looking menacing. Do you know what I mean? You looked at him and thought, do you know what? He looks in that picture, a menacing photograph. But the flip side of that coin is Dateline had specifically said they'd got this photograph, they had zoomed in on the photograph or edited it to improve quality of that photograph. Now, me and you were videographers, and we know that it wasn't zoomed in on to improve its quality. It was zoomed in on and cropped for dramatic effect. So
Agreed.
Let's look at it from this point of view. Let's say they got hold of Bryan Kohberger's phone, and just say in amongst Bryan Kohberger's phone there was 3,000 photographs of Bryan Kohberger, and the vast majority of them was him strolling around in a hoodie. Some of them white, some of them black, some of them blue, some of them on his own, some of them in groups of people. But this black one just happened to be one where he was stood with 10 people, but it just happened to be black. They knew that the perpetrator was said to have been wearing black, so they purposefully crop him out of a picture wearing a black hoodie, use a little bit of tweaking, make him look a bit more menacing, and then put it out. That is circumstantial evidence because it's worked on, like yourself, in that snapshot. But in the grander scheme of things, that was cleverly leveraged. That in the grander scheme of things, mean absolutely nothing.
Well, I mean, I think when you look at the hoodie thing, I mean, I would say me and you probably have selfies in our phone that are predominantly hoodies. You know what I'm saying? So like, because I know you wear hoodies a lot, I wear hoodies a lot. I think it's safe to say any of us could have multiple hoodies. Now, the putting the hood up in your hoodie or in your selfie, I believe that most people that wear hoodies and have selfies, I highly doubt they put their hood up for the selfie. I believe that it's an attempt to look menacing by Kohberger or anyone else that does it. Like, why else would you put your hood up and then take the selfie? What look are you trying to obtain? What do you think about that? What look do you believe he was trying to obtain?
I think that you dig into that element of that photograph because you know that you are looking at a bigger picture, so you're contemplating other things. He's been accused of this crime, so you attach that to it. I think if someone just showed you a picture just randomly of a guy wearing a black hoodie with his hood up, you wouldn't think anything of it. So,
I agree.
Again, it's kind of the totality of circumstantial evidence, and it's trying to, like I said at the beginning, try and look at each of it on its own merit. So for me, yeah, he looks a bit menacing when you take into consideration that we know he's been accused of killing 4 people. And it's the first time we've seen it. But again, I have to consider that without context, I know nothing. I know absolutely nothing about it. He could have been on some sort of, I don't know. There could have been a reason for his hood being up. I have to ask. So there was just one hoodie picture with him with his hood up. Was there another picture with him with his hood down? I don't.
There was quite a few. With the hoodie up, and there's no doubt about it that Dateline and these mainstream media organizations, they're trying to push a specific narrative. I agree with you 100%. The bullshit that they said about the photo and zooming in and cropping it, and we all know it makes it more pixelated. It does not make it their claim that it was to make the picture better was completely a lie. However, there are some of the things that, in my opinion, have been proven to be true. And one of the things I'm going to say is, when we look at some of the information leaked, initially, I understand your position. Now, that's just propaganda. But we just saw inside court where the judge is essentially saying that whoever leaked this information needs to be arrested.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I saw that and thought the same.
I think that confirms, or at least validates, I think it verified. Yeah. So what was leaked, I believe that what this did is it painted the picture for me of how the knife sheath was left. If I'm upstairs murdering 2 girls, and then third girl pops up, and I have to jump up real quick and chase this person down the steps, now it makes sense why whoever the murderer is probably left the knife sheath. At least now in my brain, it's not. It makes sense why the knife sheath would be left. Wouldn't you agree that could have potentially answered the question me and you've had the whole time about why was somebody so dumb to leave the knife sheath? I'd say chasing someone in the heat of the moment is a good enough reason.
I think for this, there's two things that I find slightly wrong with that situation.
Okay.
The thing what I find off with it, and I'm not saying it's impossible, because of course it's possible. If he did it, then it makes sense that that's how it happened. It kind of answers that question. My issue is, and it's back to something that you touched on at the beginning, and it was that Bryan Kohberger, this idea of him doing this crime is a bit of a conundrum, because you simultaneously have to believe, and I released a video, I think it was yesterday, that Andrea Burkhardt stated, and it was about, you have to believe that he's an idiot or he's some sort of fucking genius. But it ain't about being a genius, is it? It's about, he must have been a fucking idiot. And I do struggle with it. I do struggle with it, because people turn around and say, no, what happens is, in the heat of the moment, he made mistakes. But he didn't.
No.
Because these mistakes, just say, for instance, let's go back to the purchase of the knife sheath. So that would prove to me, if he did it and he purchased the knife sheath on Amazon, that weren't a spur of the moment thing. This is something that he has contemplated doing over a lengthy period of time. So you can't then turn around and say, or he made mistakes because he got caught up in the moment. This is someone with the knowledge that he does have. We know he's got it. We know he's got the knowledge that he has. So why would somebody with his amount of knowledge, why would he make the mistakes that he's made when he's not under any duress? It is literally like he wants to get caught. And because
I think it's possible we gave him too much credit, or whoever did this, whether it's Kohberger or not. I think we're looking at this crime, and initially, especially because they didn't leave DNA, or so we know, it looked like the perfect crime with the exception of the knife sheath. But now, as all of this stuff is adding up, like we take a look at obviously the knife sheath, the DNA, we take a look at the Amazon, not just the Amazon purchase, but the potential search for a replacement afterwards. We take a look at some of the phone things, and trust me, I'm with you that the phone pings could cover a large radius. However, the documentation specifically said it was up to 100 feet from the residence. I think it was 100 feet. There are things that are adding up. And to me, I'm looking at whoever did this. In this case, I believe it was Kohberger, and saying, whoever did this, where I previously thought they had to have been genius, no. There was whoever did this had no common sense. They made so many mistakes, one right after another, and it looks horrible right now. And that's why I'm starting to look at Kohberger and say, yeah, I think maybe he did it, because the alternative is what is many of the theories that go around in this community. And to be perfectly honest, the theories that are pushed forward, they make people like you and me look stupid by association. Me and you have been pro-Burger for the most part, pro-innocent until proven guilty. And we're left with all of these crazy theories that truly sound wild. Like when we're talking about the green car, and you and me have been in this thing long enough, we've heard way wilder theories than this. And so I'm at the point where rather than associate or continuously associate with people that theories are so wild and far-fetched, I got to go with Occam's razor. Occam's razor does point to the guy that is currently charged. Because the alternative, and this is what I want to say, is what would be the reason for the national conspiracy? What would be the reason for the national media? What would be the reason for the FBI? What would be the reason for them engaging in this conspiracy? When we're talking about Idaho, that makes sense because they needed to get people back in school. I understand why Idaho would cover something up. I don't understand what's so important about this case that on a grand scale, we're talking about the federal government. We're talking about all these people literally helping with this cover up. I don't understand the logic in it. Go ahead. I said a lot.
Which I think is what a lot of people struggle with respect of trying to think about cover-ups and things like that. And I think we can go too deep into what we believe it takes to cover something up or to frame someone. I said something to someone the other day, and I said a simple question, and that is, do you believe this statement to be true? And that is, do you believe that law enforcement have never planted evidence, for instance, to either further a criminal investigation or to obtain a conviction of an accused person? The person never came back and answered that question, but ultimately you and I both know that law enforcement will try and do something if they can in order to further a conviction. So I think I attach that to the Bryan Kohberger situation, and I have to consider the pressure that they would have been under to get a result. So many things going on in the background. So it makes it plausible that just say someone comes along and said, we know he did it. We know he did it. Mm-hmm. But they can't prove it. They can't prove it. They've got someone saying, look, I know the guy did it. I know he did it, but there is no evidence. There is nothing. There's nothing. Would they then be pushed in a direction that they may be tempted to do something to try and help the investigation along? Again, I know you're going into the realms of kind of conspiracy theory, but we know it's happened in the past. We know it's happened.
Absolutely.
And it would be, I think, silly to say that no, it's beyond the realms of possibility. Did they go into it with nefarious intent? No, I don't think they did, but I do believe that they are under a fucking lot of pressure to get this done. to find out who did this crime, and I
Yep.
believe that some of this investigation was screwed up by him.
I agree with that. I believe when we're looking at it from the local level, there's a million reasons, and one very big one, which is the economy based on this college. There's huge reasons for the town itself to engage in some sort of conspiratorial activity, some sort of cover up. Where I'm struggling with it, because anytime we're looking at a conspiracy, any type of conspiracy, the question has to be what would be the ultimate point? What would be the reason? For instance, the Gulf of Tonkin incident was for a reason. If you believe 9/11 was an inside job, it's for a reason. So what I mean is, what would be the reason on a grand level
For the
outside
FBI
of
to be
Idaho?
involved. Yeah.
Yeah,
You see, I can't.
because yeah,
I personally, I can't answer it. You know what? And that is the sticky wicket, isn't it? And you could say that with every single thing that you bring up with respect of what's an alternative. You know, we talk
Right.
about the frat boys, and you know, we can dig really into the history of deaths amongst fraternities and sororities. We can go back into the Hazen, and we have briefly earlier on touched on it. We know it happens. We know that these students have fucking killed each other before and walked free. We know that there's situations where roommates have murdered their fucking roommates. Do you know what I mean? It's happened over time, and we know that there's powerful families. We saw what happened in the Murdoch situation. You know, for a long time down in South Carolina, you had that family basically running the fucking shit around there. You've still got things happening around the Stephen Smith case where you could argue, did the Murdoch family cover that murder up? Was it a murder, or did they cover the death up of Stephen Smith? But you're right, with respect to the FBI, what skin in the game did they have? Now, we could go out on a limb and say, did the FBI fuck up by thinking that Bryan Kohberger was involved in the Dana Smithers case? And did they have him under surveillance? Were they using stingrays in the area? Who fucking knows? Did they have him under? Did they lose him? Who knows? They obviously had him on the radar for Dana Smithers because his parents had to sit at the grand jury for it. So there was something going on there.
I think that's a point to you, honestly, when you're looking at that, because we don't know how long they had them, their eyes on Kohberger for this. And to be perfectly honest, the answer to why the feds would do it is because they used a method to obtain the DNA that they later would have to come out and admit. We all know that their method of how they obtained Bryan Kohberger's DNA or how they compared it was not. It wasn't one of their normal methods. When it is violating our Fourth Amendment. When you sign up for one of these DNA things and you believe that, or they tell you that law enforcement doesn't use that, I think it's very possible that it could be a cover up all the way to the federal government, and it's basically them not wanting to reveal investigative tactics that they use. So that is a point to you a little bit there.
Yeah. But again, I think it is still going out on a limb. I have to admit, that's going out on a limb. But again, is it beyond the realms of possibility? I don't think it is beyond the realms of possibility. Especially, and the thing what's always kind of been stuck in the back of my mind is indeed the Dana Smithers case, that situation. There's just something with it. We know that there was something in the background, and you know that they won't tell us certain things, and they are still being very cagey around the DNA, for instance. You know, the knife sheath itself. We know that the knife sheath wasn't sent in. We know that it was a sample taken from the knife sheath that went through various different places before it would eventually end up with the FBI, who would do testing and do whatever they were going to do, but they wouldn't produce any documentation to support it. We know that it was likely, certainly against what the American people would want them to be doing. So that's kind of all gone away. Which what you're left with Riley Nolan turning around and saying, well, the FBI never actually said Bryan Kohberger's DNA was on the knife sheath. They just came back and give us his name and said, this is the person who you need to look at. He is someone who you likely could be able to get a result from.
I want to ask you a series of questions here, and just curious what your thoughts are. Do you believe that the DNA was Bryan Kohberger's on the knife sheath?
I'm 50-50, and I'll tell you why. We haven't seen Ann Taylor directly contest it. She hasn't flat out argued it. She's more been on the route of, as if she's almost said, okay, it's his DNA. This is about find out how it now got on there. Which you could take that one of two things. I don't think she means, okay, it's his DNA on the knife sheath. We're admitting and conceding it's on the knife sheath. I think what she means is, we're going to accept that you're saying you've got his DNA. We're going down the route of, how did you get it?
Right.
I think.
Do you believe they have it?
Yeah. Because I believe they could have got it in multiple ways. It wouldn't have been easy. I believe that the story we've been told how they got it is ludicrous, bearing in mind how easy they could have got it. And that's another thing that bothers me, because on the grander scheme, they didn't have to do what they did.
Agreed. No, I agree with that. Next question. Do you believe they have the knife? Because if you look at this previous court hearing, I believe he said something about a knife in a display box. Do you believe that was referencing some sort of the actual knife, or some sort of model, or some, you know what I mean?
Do you believe this literally today in the last video I did, and I said I don't think they've got the actual knife. I believe that they will want a visual representation of the knife, and they will have to take precautions when doing it. So they're obviously showing how it's going to be displayed. But I do not believe they've got the weapon.
If they do, and it's traceable back to the Amazon, would that alter your opinion on this entire thing?
100%. 100%.
All right. Does the Amazon thing concern you at all anyway? With him, the fact that, because let's be honest, a lot of people have K-bars, a lot of people order them, but if you look at the timing, you look at what happened, I'm highly concerned about the documentation saying that it looked like he sought out a replacement. I'm highly concerned about it saying that he attempted to delete Amazon history. I don't know if I believe that or not. I guess I'm kind of still iffy on that. But what are your thoughts on that? Like, is that not a very, very red flag? Like, is this not a red flag?
The issue that I have with Amazon is potentially something that is niggling you in the back of your mind. And that, I spend a lot of money on Amazon. It's one of the main places that I go to purchase anything. And I do so because in the UK, for instance, I can buy an electrical product, and 2 years down the line, if it goes wrong, I can send it back to Amazon. They'll change it. And I spend a lot of money through Amazon. And you and I both know that the way that Amazon works is you can look at stuff, it learns, it's got an algorithm that picks up what you buy, what you don't buy, what you're interested in. It even looks at because you buy certain things, what other things may be of interest to you. It's a very, very clever, one of the most highly sophisticated selling platforms in the world, if not the most powerful.
They get me all the time by promoting things to me that they think I would buy. So I agree.
It's, for me, yes, it's concerning, but I feel that potentially Ann Taylor and Bryan have got numerous outs on it, because they have to show that he went onto Amazon, he specifically typed in K-bar knife or knife, whatever, showed him purchase it, him not to be able to say what happened to it, him to say, well, I don't know what happened to it, it's gone. And then to show him going back on there after the murders, again, searching K-bar knife. What did he do? Did he actually buy it? It doesn't seem that he did, but then does it specifically show him trying to delete his history? If they've got all of that, so you've got him going onto Amazon, searching for a knife, buying a knife, it being delivered to him, that knife is now nowhere to be seen. He can't tell you. He'll just turn around and say, "No, I lost it. I don't know where it is." Then that, for me, wouldn't be good enough. Not if they then can show him logging on, potentially looking to search for another one, and then deleting history.
Right.